This is Roger Thunder. Here I am again. I thought today we would talk about something that I will call the reset, the big reset. And I'm going to start at a very earthy level, a very mundane level, and I'm going to work my way up the scale to a very cosmic level, or shall I say, shamanistic level. And it's imperative that you pay close attention to what I'm saying if you want to really, really find out or grasp what is going on in the universe today, what is going on in our world, what is going on in our reality, what is going on with the powers to be, how it all affects us. Not too many people are going to be aware of this, so I'm making a video because I want to put all the pieces together. Let's start. And when I talk about reset, first we're gonna start at the mundane level of financial reset, economic reset. And in order to do that, I have to give you a little bit of history. And that history probably goes back to like JFK and his perception of what was coming as far as an economic transfer and a different way of looking at economics, or a different way of looking at the financial world, or a different way about, let's say, looking at the energy of money. What was coming was the deep state, or the powers to be, or the elite, or whatever you want to call the dark ones, had it in their mind that they were going to change what money was, what currency was. So this was something that probably JFK knew about, and he also knew about CIA activity. I'm going to get into some pretty deep stuff here. He knew about CIA activity and how they were connected, how the intelligence community was connected with, we'll just call it the deep state. How about that? Because that seems to be a popular term. The deep state. And by deep state, I mean the people that are, I don't mean the government state. Excuse me. I don't mean the government state. I mean the people behind the government, the entities behind the government, the beings behind the government who have an agenda. So when he said he was going to take down the CIA, they killed him. They assassinated him. They took him out because their agenda was coming up soon, and that was during not the Civil War, excuse me, the Vietnam War. This would take place during the Vietnam War, and it took place with Nixon. Okay, Nixon was a president that was very close to China. And I want you to remember this, China, okay, because China figures prominently in the situation that we have facing us today. Nixon was very, very, very close to China. In fact, it was said at the time that he was a president that had better relations with China than any other president. What did Nixon do? What is this upcoming event that I think JFK saw? What did Nixon do? Well, Nixon took us off the gold standard. He took us off the gold standard. He did that supposedly for the reason that we were running out of money to keep the war going in Vietnam. This was a big transition era. I lived in that era, the 60s and 70s. So he took us off the gold standard. What happened when we went off the gold standard? In order to finance the Vietnam War, because we were running out of money. So he made an agreement with the Saudis to put us on what they call the petrodollar. In other words, our economics would be based from that time forward on the petrodollar, the oil dollar. Oil would represent what gold represented before. But when he did this, okay, that opened the doorway to being able to manipulate the value, okay, of so-called, quote, currency. This could be done through how much oil was produced or how much oil wasn't produced. I want you to bear with me here because this is very important as to what's going on today in our world with the pandemic and all of this other stuff. It's going to build up here. I'm painting a picture for you. This is history that you have to know in order for you to understand where I'm going with this. So that left the door when he changed the currency. Nixon changed the what represented currency or what represented money. Money is just energy. First of all, you got to realize that money is just energy. It's just a form of energy. And I don't mean the energy like from oil. I mean energy in the universe. Okay. It's a concept. Okay. So anyway, he opened the door for later on down the road for there to be a wide open space in there to where when technology came in, all of a sudden this wealth went from actual physical commodities like oil, which represented the wealth. They actually could jump into another paradigm, which was creating money on computers. In other words, instead of actually printing physical fiat currency, somehow it jumped into making this currency on computers. Stock trading and all of this kind of stuff jumped rapidly because technology was going so fast, and it still is going so fast, that it's mind-boggling. People have no idea how much we advanced in technology in a very, very short time. Why is this? That's another story. I'll get off on that maybe later on in this video or another time. But what came about was that through technology, we were able to manipulate currency. Okay. Let's remember the gold standard. We were off the gold standard. So gold, the dollar was no longer backed by actual gold or silver for that matter, or any metal, any kind of metal, precious metal that represented the dollar or the coin or whatever. That's where it all went wrong. That was the beginning of the end, and that's maybe what JFK saw coming. So who is it that was pushing this change of currency, change of how we represent currency. Well, again, we'll use the term the deep state, and I explained what that meant earlier. What was their agenda behind this? Now, I don't claim to be a super financial expert. I can only go by my intuition and by what I garner. So anything that I'm saying here is something that I have either studied or have watched videos on to get the history of, and watched many videos and read books by financial experts. Now, let's fast forward. Let's skip a whole bunch of time period. Let's just say that this opened the door when Nixon did that, for them through technology to eventually get to the point where they could just print money at will on a computer. So what happened? Well, they got fast and loose with how they dealt with other nations, and how the United States dealt with other nations, and how other nations dealt with the United States, and the global exchange system, and global bartering, shall we say. But they spent money on the computer like it was going out of style, and somewhere along the line, by not really figuring what they were doing, by not having a complete handle on what they were doing, eventually it got to the point where we started getting further and further and further in debt as a nation here. How does that debt relate to people? Well, because people are like a currency too. Every time you're born, on your birth certificate, there's a value placed on you as a person depending on what kind of family you come from, what your dad did, what your grandfather did. So they try to figure out how much you'll be worth, just like bartering with money. But I digress here. So anyway, I just said that to show you how it's all interrelated. Our worth as beings, as far as they're concerned. So what they did is they got, basically we got in debt, and basically the world's nations started getting in debt. They started getting in debt. They started getting behind the eight ball. How this all happened, I'm not completely clear on, but I don't need to be, because I see the end result. The end result, as I was gathering more and more information on the lead up into when the last president was elected, that would be Trump. At the point that he was getting elected, now this is everything. This is what's going to put everything into perspective here. This is all fact. Okay, this is fact. When he decided to run, the economy, the system bartering, the whole thing was messed up beyond belief. We were so far in debt. Obama really is the one that triggered us into more and more debt. That could have been purposeful. So when Trump came into office, there was this huge shortfall in the world. I'm talking about globally, not just the United States, okay? 2008 is the thing that triggered it. In 2008, there was a huge financial collapse, and they had to bail out all the banks. That was the start of it. Well, we never recovered from that. They just made it look like we the recovery was in progress because they kept printing funny money. It's called quantitative easing, is what it's called. Quantitative easing. In other words, printing money that really doesn't exist, or manipulating the stock market, short selling, all this kind of stuff. And we just saw that recently. That's what triggered this video, actually, is what has been going on recently with the Robin Hood thing and all that, the gaming thing. So in 2008, everything crashed. It never recovered. They started printing more and more money, more and more money. And so basically what the powers to be decided, okay, is that they fucked up. And they know they fucked up, and they know that they spent a lot of money that wasn't there, that wasn't really based on any kind of gold standard. Okay, now my theory, and there's a lot of evidence to point to this fact. Now I'm going to jump up a little bit from the mundane level to a more cosmic shamanistic level and start talking from that point of view. So pay attention. The gold standard, which I discussed earlier, we went off of, is really the only way, okay, that you can get back to balancing the budget or balancing economic interests on this lower mundane level, that where people barter every day, and how citizens live, and income and outcome and all that stuff. So the only real way, and I think this is what Trump represented, and I think this is why when he came into office there was a shitstorm against him. He was basically an outsider, a businessman. And so with this Make America Great and everything, and I'm not talking from any kind of, like, I'm not promoting anything. I'm not saying I'm for any political party. I'm just explaining the whole big picture here. So let's make that perfectly clear for all these people that want to censor the shit out of people. Okay, this is just something that is, I'm coming from a neutral area as a shamanistic person to explain to the masses what's going on, or what I think, in my opinion, in my intuitive reasoning, with my knowledge and my background, is going on. So Trump probably decided that he wanted to make America great again and all that stuff, jobs, and let's go back to China coming back into the picture. Remember I said Nixon was very, very chummy with China. Was a deal done back then a long time ago? Fast forward, because as Trump was coming into office and maybe deciding in order to fix the financial situation, to take us back to the gold standard, as he was doing this, he was also realizing, and this is fact, that all the gold around the world, all the lots of bars of bullions, I mean tons and tons of gold, was being bought up by China. Russia has a lot too. But China was like buku gold, getting gold, lots and lots of gold, storing it up, buying it everywhere. Why was China doing this? Because they realized a long time ago that the only real currency is gold. So they bought up all the gold, and a lot of people, a lot of financial experts were saying at the time, Why are they buying all the gold? Where's all the gold in the United States? There was no real proof of that we had any more gold even at Fort Knox. So were they getting an edge up on us through getting a lot of gold and knowing that people were going to have to go back on the gold standard? Well, let's put it this way. The Chinese have never been stupid about financial things. They have never been stupid about that. The Chinese culture, and I'm not sticking up for China or anything else, I'm just saying that as an intuitional person, the Chinese culture goes way, way back, inventing all kinds of things, monetary things, gunpowder. They were guns. They were way ahead of the time, way, way ahead. Fireworks, ways of thinking, Taoist philosophy. Don't write China off. They're brilliant. So what happened was when Trump came in, things were so bad, and he was trying to. This is my opinion. He was trying to go back on the gold standard, maybe. That's the only reason that I can figure out why there was a shitstorm against Donald Trump, because the New World Order people, the dark ones, the deep state, wanted to continue on with the currency the way it was. But they also realized that it was crashing at the same time. So here you got two forces. One's Trump and one's the deep state, and they're both realizing that the economic situation is dire. And they both realize that it has to start over. Well, how do you start over? You crash the system. You crash the monetary system. It becomes null and void, and you start all over again at the very beginning. So there's two ways to crash the system. There's an evil way and a lesser evil way. One way is these New World Order people want to crash it. And it is being crashed right now as we speak. That's what's happening, people. They wanted to crash it with no concern or no care about what happens to mankind. I think what Trump was trying to do was make it less difficult on mankind. Because when you reset an economy, when you reset a the whole world is revolving. All commerce, all goods and services, all food, all clothing, everything is revolving around businesses, small businesses, bartering on this high level. And people are bartering and doing all this stuff on money that really doesn't exist. So when that money is crashed, or this is what's called a reset, when that money is purposely crashed because it's no longer worth anything so that they can start over, millions of people are going to suffer horribly. Horribly. So there was one concept, maybe Trump's concept, and the other concept, maybe the New World Order. That's why the big shitstorm happened when Donald Trump came in, an outsider, a businessman, thinking he could do things differently as far as an economic reset goes. Now, during this time, it is said, and I guess there's proof because there's people that are putting up actual documents on websites. Probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the United States of America, which is really was a corporation, has been from day one, went bankrupt, went tits up, belly up, whatever you want to say. They got bankrupt. Well, why did they go bankrupt? Well, what could have happened, and what a lot of financial analysts were talking about at the time that Trump got in, was that China, because it had so much gold, had an ace card, and there was a lot of bonds out there, okay, that China owned, a lot of paper debt, okay, debt from the United States that was based on the older currency, the older non-existent currency. So somehow along the line, what I think happened is that China called in the debt and broke the Bank of America, broke the Corporation of America. So what happened then was a lot of people in the Democratic side who were probably more closely in line with the dark ones, the deep state. People like Biden saw the writing on the wall and they tried to make deals with China. That's what this whole thing is that's happening right now. Trump wouldn't make a deal on that level. And there's certain elements in China too. There's the Communist Party, and then there's a different, more like a republic, like the Republic of United States. So you're dealing with, this gets very complicated, very, very complicated. So that's where the battle was going on, is that what's happening right now is that China may be called in the debt on America, bankrupted them. What do you do now? What do you do now if you don't want China to be in control of everything? This is all about control, monetary control of this whole world globally. Because the United States was the center of activity globally. It was the heart of everything with the petrodollar and all that stuff. It was all based on that. Well, what happens if that crashes? Well, the whole world goes into a tailspin, okay, except for those that have their ass covered, like China or Russia. Russia's got huge, huge stockpiles of oil. So what you're seeing right now about this battle between the Democrats and the Republicans isn't really a battle between Democrats and Republicans. What it is a battle between the dark entities on one side and maybe the less darker entities on another side, arguing about how they're going to start things over and how many people they're going to have to kill in the process, how many citizens they're going to have to. It's called collateral damage, okay? Now, couple that with the fact that the world is overpopulated. I'm talking about billions and billions of people that don't need to be here, shouldn't be here, by their calculation, okay? By their calculation. Oh, this is too much of a burden. Oh, man, we can't control this many people. Shortage of money, too many people. So what do? Well, at some point they decided to, in order to fix this stuff, they needed to have more control over the people, for one thing. They had to figure out how to get more control over the people, and they had to figure out how to maybe depopulate. More control and depopulation figured into this reset somehow. Now, this could have been just part of the battle between the dark ones, Democrats and Biden on one side and Trump on the other. That's the way I'm seeing it, is this. So what happened is, out of China, isn't that interesting? China again. Either China was blamed or it actually came out of China, this supposed Wuhan virus, which played right into the hands of whoever to get more control over people or to distract people, probably more of a distraction, to distract people from the real situation that was going on, which is the economy is crashing. The global economy is on a massive scale is crashing, and what happens will you go back to being not only a third world country, but less than a third world country. You go into dire poverty. So this thing with the pandemic and the COVID, and you can speculate all day long whether it's real or not real. This is not what I'm debating here. What I'm saying is it serves a great purpose. You figure it out for yourself. It serves a great, great purpose for these people as a distraction, for control over people, and the possibility is there for depopulation through massive psychological warfare and massive deception. That's what the possibility is. So this is why all of this stuff is happening right now. It really has nothing to do with what you think. It's not about, oh, the Democrats hate Trump and the Republicans and this and that. And it's really way, way, way above politics. It's masked as politics. For the normal person with the normal mentality that doesn't quite understand all this stuff I'm talking about, they don't have a clue as to what I'm talking about here. This stuff is masked so that the normal citizen not only gets sucked into maybe a depopulation event and a culling of the population and a control of the population. Because why do they want to control the population? Why do they want to even make the population sickly? Either on a psychological or a physical level, so that when this shit goes down, they have more control over the masses, or at least they think they do. I think that they're figuring wrong. I think that they're figuring wrong because people like me and others are here to wake people up and let them know what's going on. You see, this thing with gold too, I'm going to add this in here. This thing with gold goes back to the beginning of civilization, the beginning of when the Anunnaki, and I've talked about this in previous videos, when the Anunnaki came down from the heavens or came from the stars back in the Sumerian times, the Sumerian culture. Supposedly they came here for a reason. They were journeying through space and landed on Earth to mine what? Gold. Gold. And why do they need gold? Well, because gold was something that they needed to turn into a fine dust and spray out into their atmosphere on Nibiru, which is the planet that they came from, so that they could save their planet, because there was their atmosphere was dissolving. But that's a whole nother story, and that's in some of my other videos. Sounds far-fetched, but it isn't. It's history. It's the real history of the planet. Take it from me, I wouldn't lie to you. There's no reason for me to lie. This is from my research into both the history of the world and biblical history and all kinds of history, cuneiform tablets from the Sumerian culture. Isn't it funny that gold now is playing another main? It's not funny. It's really, it makes sense. Then that makes you jump to think about, well, whether some of these people in this bloodline from the original Anunnaki and the Sumerian culture and all that stuff, if that was fast forward to now, because that technology leaped by leaps and bounds back then when the Sumerian culture showed up and the Anunnaki. And then what has happened recently since, say, like since 1910 or 1913 or somewhere in there, somewhere in that period of time, technology leaped forward dramatically. Even in my lifetime, I remember when computers took up a whole fucking room. Okay? Maybe 2 rooms. Now those same computers, the technology has advanced so far that you can put it on something the size of your thumbnail or smaller. The same computers that you used to have to put into a building. Okay? Technology is just expanding faster and faster and faster. And why would it expand that fast in such a short amount of time? We're talking 1910 to 2020, little over 100 years. I mean, hello? So there is another something else going on here besides the reset, and let's jump up a higher level now. This is just a manifestation of what's going on a higher level. Is there a transition going on in a higher level, a cosmic level, a dimensional level that is just manifesting on the physical level? This whole reset, because money, again, is nothing more than energy. It's nothing more than energy. It's a form of energy, just like our bodies are energy. This chair's energy, the room's energy, the computer's energy. Everything is energy. And so if you're having a massive shift of energy on a monetary level, that it's something that the world has depended in this third dimension, lower third dimension, everything is dependent on that, but not in the higher dimensions. What's going on in the higher dimensions? Well, you can speculate on that. So that's basically it. I've tried to run everything down here pretty quickly. Now, there's a lot of little variables that I might have left out here, but it would take me an 8-hour video to try to explain all this stuff. But what I'm trying to do is give it to you in a nutshell. So everything that you see going on around you now, you can be ready for a massive, massive reset. And how that's going to affect mankind might not be too good. So you better raise up your consciousness, and you better start doing some deep meditation and trying to tune into your light body, your Merkaba. You better grasp on to that Christ grid, and that the name for the Christ grid is Christ grid. It means higher consciousness. It means Buddha consciousness. It means Christ consciousness. It means higher consciousness. Because when this massive shift takes place down here, this reset, it's going to be on this third dimensional level. And what you want to try to do is get your consciousness up to the, beyond the third dimensional level and try to get into the fifth dimensional level so that you're not affected. Because when you get into the fifth consciousness or the fifth dimensional level, when the third dimensional level goes belly up and starts melting before your very eyes through chaotic events and the chaos of the universe, you'll just sail right through it. And I plan on sailing right through it. But I'm here to warn my fellow man that all these machinations of resets and financial manipulation, that's what's going on. That's what's going on right now. So you can be your own guide and you can be you make up your own mind. Just remember that this whole reset is involved in what's going on with the pandemic and all the disinformation right now and all the censorship, because there are enlightened ones out there that are getting a grasp on this. There's people that are awake, like yours truly, have been for some time, and as time gets near more close for this reset to take place, it's more crucial that you elevate your consciousness and you go into the area of protection for yourself and your family. Just remember that there is a God consciousness and you're connected to it. If you want to be, there's a God consciousness. It's not the big God out there like the Bible says, and the big God in the sky with the sitting on a throne with the scepter. No, it's not that at all. It's like I said before, it's an intelligence beyond your comprehension that thought you into being, and you're part of it. You're part of it. So you have to realize that you're part of it. And that's what Jesus meant. And I'm not a Bible thumper or Christian or anything like that, but that's what the enlightened Master Jesus meant when he said, "My kingdom is no part of this world." It isn't. Doesn't have anything to do with this world. And this world exists on all kinds of dimensional levels. So he was talking about raising yourself up to another dimensional level that he was on. You got to realize that ascended masters come back down here in this reality or manifest in this reality as a guide or a warning to people as to what to expect or where to go. A signpost, if you will. And there are those of us who align ourselves with that energy, okay? There are those who come back from their reincarnation cycles and come back here as a choice, as a free choice to inform mankind. It's a purpose. It's a very, very high purpose. So I'll be doing additional videos as I see things progressing or not progressing here. But I'm coming from a very, very neutral, Christ-centered source here. Very high source, and I'm not political. I'm apolitical. I don't believe in politics because look at the mess. And I don't believe in governments, and I don't believe in mass mind control, and I don't believe in harming populations. I believe in love. Love is a neutral situation. It's in the center because it's a balance that you have to have. So you have to be able to imagine, use your imagination and your willpower, and then you have to use your heart center to start raising your consciousness. Start doing some breathing. It's all in the breath. When you breathe, you don't just breathe air. You breathe what they call prana. Prana is the energy of the universe. That's what raises your consciousness. So I might do some other videos about some spiritual techniques that maybe can accelerate your raising of your consciousness in this time of, I don't know how much time we have left. Because it's already happening, people, but I don't want you to be afraid. The first thing you have to do is cast out fear and have trust in the creative intelligence. That's what you have to do. Cast out fear, cast out anger, cast out anxiety, and trust in the creative intelligence to get you through this transition. There's nothing to fear, not even death. Not really, because when you die, you transition also. It's just a different kind of dimensional shift. So anyway, I thought I would just run that down and explain some stuff to you. And like I say, I can't explain all the variables, and I might have left some things out here and there. Because although I am somewhat of a historian on a biblical and spiritual level, and I'm of a shamanistic bent, and I have practiced all kinds of spiritual practices and yogi, and I am a natural intuitive and empath. So I'll put this video out there, and I'm going to be putting it out on several platforms because YouTube is part of the problem. They're not part of the solution, as is Google and all these other ones that are controlled, again, by factions that don't want the truth out about what's happening. Why? Because they don't want the American people to wake up. They don't want the American people to wake up. They don't want any people waking up. They don't want people that are on higher levels of consciousness because that's a danger to them. It's a big danger. Because they haven't got to the point yet, especially in America with all the guns and everything, where they probably could control people. They're trying to kill them slowly with all the mandates that they're putting out there right now. That's what the mandates are about, okay, in my opinion. The mandates are about control, killing, slowing down, depriving of oxygen, if you get my drift, depriving mankind of the breathing apparatus, which brings in the prana and the chi. These people aren't stupid. They know what will suppress the human organism. Be careful what you buy into, just like I said in my last. Be careful what you believe that comes out of the mouths of stone cold liars that have an agenda of reset, depopulation, renewal on their level. And it's a very selfish thing because money is power, and it's all about money. It's all about power. Money is just the superficial aspect of it, but it goes much, much higher. So I'll leave it there. These are some things that you should, if you need to rewind this video and you need to share this video, get it out there, because this is the answer. This is a good deal of the answer to help you and your fellow beings on this planet wake up. You see, it's a planetary thing too, and I'm going to leave it with that. And don't forget about unity consciousness. And when I say planetary things, there's people that that I mentioned earlier that come back here, they're interdimensional, interplanetary people. Okay, they're here to warn you. Pay attention. All right, adios. See you soon.